Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's EcoCast. The topic is doing more with less day, highlighting technologies that help boost IT efficiency. This event is produced by Actual Tech Media and sponsored by Nutanix, Rapid7, Pure Storage, and we'll have special guests from the Kinney Group. We've got a great event lined up for you today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We know your time in IT is valuable. Being former IT professionals ourselves, we know just how busy it can be. And in my opinion, that's why this topic is just so appropriate. I mean, I love being able to leverage technologies that can help us in IT become kind of the superheroes, if you will, and just snap our fingers and make things happen for our end users and for our company. So we've got some really cool technologies lined up for you today to that point. Before we get started, just a little bit of welcome and housekeeping information here that you need to be aware of. We do have a number of prizes to announce, 3 Amazon $500 gift cards. I'll talk about the requirements to be eligible for those in just a moment. Questions, we have a questions tab on the left-hand side. Many of you have said good morning and hello. Of course, we appreciate that. We also want your technical questions today. Think about these solutions as they're presented and consider, how can they help you? And ask your challenges, for these expert presenters. Give them what you're faced with on a daily basis and see how these solutions might be able to help you. I'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session with each of the presenters, so I'll be queuing up your best questions, your greatest challenges for them, so keep those coming. Social, we have a Twitter icon on the bottom of the screen. You can tweet directly from the console, and the hashtag for today's event will be automatically appended. And then handouts. We have 2 PDFs and a link from Nutanix, so make sure you download those. The PDFs are from Rapid7 and Pure Storage, and the link from Nutanix, of course, will take you to the Nutanix HCI solution where you can test drive that. We'll talk about those more in just a moment, but first, we'll be doing the 3 Amazon $500 gift card drawings, one after each of our 3 presenters. You must be live in attendance to qualify, and all prize winners must have been an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. We'll reach out to prize winners after the event. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, of course, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found in the Handouts tab. Now, Actual Tech Media has been donating to Direct Relief $500 for every event that we run like this, every MegaCast, EcoCast, and Summit event. Direct Relief provides PPE and needed healthcare equipment for frontline healthcare workers. So, of course, we appreciate your participation in this event because it helps us to support Direct Relief. We've also been supporting through these events the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund and One Tree Planted in partnership with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can go to gorilla.guide. Just put that in your browser. I know it's a little bit different URL, but if you just type in gorilla.guide, it'll take you to the gorilla.guide book club, and you can download free IT books in there. They are very high quality, very well done, professional, educational resources, and they're all completely free. That's the really cool thing, so make sure you check that out. Like I said, the hashtag is ATMEcoCast. That'll be appended automatically if you tweet from the bottom of your console. You can follow Actual Tech Media on Twitter and follow me as well, David M. Davis. Also, feel free to subscribe to all of the Actual Tech Media channels on YouTube, Facebook, and the 10 on Tech podcast. There are some links on the top right-hand corner of your audience console that will take you to our LinkedIn page, our YouTube channel, and Twitter as well. We post all of our latest and greatest content there on our LinkedIn channel, so make sure you follow that. Now, before we jump into it, I've got just a little bit of stage setting here that I want to do and a couple poll questions, and I'll be sharing the results of the polls with you. And after that, we'll be introducing our presenter here, our first presenter on today's EcoCast. So stick with me here for just a moment, because first I want to just talk briefly about the technologies that help boost IT efficiency. I mean, what's the fuel for this IT efficiency boost? I think we in IT all know we don't have more time. You can't make more time. If your boss says, well, you really need to make more time to fill in the blank, right? Keep the servers up to date, implement a new help desk ticketing system, upgrade the virtual infrastructure, migrate us to the cloud, cut costs. We have this long wish list, if you will, of all these things that we really want to get to, but you can't make more time. You've got to sleep, and you can't work 24/7. And unfortunately, many IT budgets, and we'll talk about IT budgets in a minute here, just don't support the additional staff that most of us in IT really could use. So in my opinion, I was an IT manager myself. I know I had this long wish list of never-ending IT projects that I really wanted to get to, but you have to fight those daily fires that come in, and you try to do as much fire prevention as possible, but it's tough. So back to the technologies here. This is really, to me, the silver bullet that we have in our belt as IT professionals. And it's the technologies, technologies that can help make us in IT more efficient. The first one being public cloud. And I'm not saying, hey, let's just move everything to the cloud, because we all know that that isn't the silver bullet, but leveraging public cloud in a smart way. For example, creating a hybrid cloud so that you can scale up application demand, as needed. For example, during the holiday or, whatever peak periods you have. Or leveraging public cloud for archiving of data, or a software as a service application that runs in the public cloud that manages, your security, or filters your email for phishing attacks, or even using public cloud for disaster recovery and data protection. These are very, very common and becoming more common in most IT organizations. So think about how you can magically use the public cloud to make IT more efficient, and we'll be talking about that throughout today's event. Also storage improvements, of course. Massive performance improvements with flash storage and other new forms of storage are coming out, and greater densities all the time. So this can reduce our storage footprint and scale up our performance at the same time, and maybe start to do things we never even thought of before, do things faster and better. But to me, the best one, the silverest bullet in the silver bullet belt there is smart software. Things like containers, microservices. I'll say Kubernetes. We overuse it, I know, containers and Kubernetes, because they aren't silver bullets in themselves. But even software manufacturers that sell solutions are starting to leverage these to make their solutions faster and better. Open source. I think all these things are leading to newer, faster, better solutions for all of us in IT. It's continually pushing kind of the leading edge or the bleeding edge of software development to do things better and faster. And I'm not saying you have to move everything to containers and move everything to open source, but this is just an example of technologies that are really fueling this fire of efficiency. Hyperconvergence, and really convergence of all the things. Convergence of networking and storage and compute, further and further is making what was once perhaps a massive multiple rack infrastructure into a much smaller footprint, much easier to manage solution with smart software layered on top. And then automation across the board, automation of security services, managed security, automation of data and data protection and disaster recovery, just all this automation, and a lot of it powered by machine learning and AI, things like that, so as well as the public cloud. So those are the types of technologies that really get me excited here and help me to envision this time where we in IT can become the superheroes, if you will, and just snap our fingers and solve the company's problems. I know that sounds unrealistic, but it's a vision, so stick with me. So I'm curious now, what are you most excited about? When we talk about new technologies, things like automated security, public and hybrid cloud, hyperconvergence, data protection, automation, automated data, disaster recovery, what are you most excited about? And this brings me to a poll with the exact same answers on it here. And so I'll call your attention here to the poll on the screen. And I know I've just put really 4, technologies in there, but the last answer is other, not listed. And I encourage you to select that. If something you're excited about is not on the list, check that other and then drop it in the questions box there, and I will share it with everyone on the event because I want to improve this poll. I want to share the technologies that you're excited about, and I will share the results of this here with you. All right, thank you everyone who responded to this one. Tim out there, thank you for your comment. Tim said, what about data governance? A great point, Tim. I will add that to the poll in the future. That is certainly something that can help us in IT, something we desperately need, I think. So I'll share the results of the poll here. 60% said automated security. That's exciting. Followed by 37% said automated data protection and disaster recovery, 33% hybrid cloud, 24% hyperconvergence, 3% other. So thank you for those comments. Thank you for that feedback. I'm going to skip that poll question and just go to this final poll question, which is, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? So if you're excited about these solutions, you know, what kind of time frame are you thinking about when it comes to implementation of these solutions at your company? Or even simply just getting started, you know, really doing POCs and testing these types of solutions out for yourself. So I'll give everyone a moment to answer this question, and then I'll introduce you to our first presenter. All right, thank you for all those responses. We do appreciate it. We'll be doing a few other polls throughout the presentation today, so of course we appreciate your participation in those as well. And with that, I'm excited to introduce our first presenter on today's EcoCast. That is Megan Donlan, Offering Manager at Rapid7. Megan, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Thanks for being on. We look forward to your presentation. Take it away.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody, for joining. As we just mentioned, I'm Meg Donlan. I'm in the product marketing team at Rapid7, primarily focused on our detection and response portfolio, and I'm excited today to talk about how to unlock successful and efficient detection and response. And I think this topic is kind of twofold. So there's the technology that we just talked about in the polls, the automation, cloud, storage improvements, all of these different things that the security team's DevOps counterparts are investing in that create new security hurdles or challenges and requirements for the security team. But then, like their DevOps counterparts, we also in security need to find efficiencies. And so I think it makes sense to kick this topic off then by talking about the problem that we're trying to solve and why we need these efficiencies. And really the theme that we continue to hear on repeat from our customers, from prospects, from as we engage with the broader cybersecurity community and analysts is it all comes back to complexity. And security teams are facing more complexity than ever before. A lot of it is the things that we just talked about. So investing in the public cloud in these hybrid scenarios, protecting a new and old environment. But there's also some core themes that we see specifically in the security space over and over again. The first is around visibility. And the majority of companies out there do not have what they feel is adequate visibility to be able to effectively monitor their entire environment. So as we invest in those new smart softwares that we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago, while they create, I think, a lot of scale and upside, I think they're worthwhile investments. Unfortunately, we're not always consulting our security counterparts before we make those investments, or even when we do, there's just a host of kind of new considerations that need to be thoughtful about when it comes to security. And so as these environments sprawl and as we have this proliferation of applications and data, visibility and just recognizing where attacks might come through is a challenge. The other area that we see a lot, and is kind of related, is that alerts are too noisy. And so an enterprise company may have dozens of different security products that they're using or tools that have security components all firing off alerts all the time. And it becomes this needle in a haystack exercise to try to recognize which things are real, where should I start, can I even get to all of these to evaluate what's real and what's not, never mind actually addressing the ones that are real and important. And so there's just a lot of noise for security teams to parse through, which leads into this next complication, which is that investigations take entirely too long. We consistently, as a theme in the security space, are measuring the time of an attack in seconds and minutes, and we're measuring the time to recognize and respond to that attack in weeks, months, sometimes longer. So the more time that attacker is present in the environment, they're moving deeper, they're moving laterally, and they're continuing to own more of the network. And then kind of the summation of all of these is that it's just getting really hard. It often feels in security that the cards are stacked against us. The industry as a whole is largely under-resourced, and we've got legacy technologies that weren't built for the modern environment that we're living in now and this pace, and so oftentimes they're actually hurting more than they're helping. And I like this recent article from Dark Reading because I think it lays out these points really, really well about just some of the changes in the way that we need to evolve our thinking around detection and response and some of the challenges that are just getting amplified as our environments evolve. And so at Rapid7, our solution and kind of vision for detection and response is that we have to eliminate the hurdles and the distractions that take teams away from security priorities and allow them to focus and give them the efficiencies and tools that they need to be successful and zero in on the things that actually matter most. And so to do that, we have a portfolio of products at Rapid7. This includes InsightIDR. This is our kind of flagship product within this portfolio, our natively cloud SaaS SIM. I'm going to be digging into this one a little bit more in a moment. We also offer a managed detection and response service. This is a global team. They offer follow-the-sun coverage, expert analysts monitoring the environment and helping triage events early when they happen. And what's nice about our MDR team is that they are obviously it's a fantastic service, but they're also leveraging our InsightIDR technology behind the scenes, and we kind of think of them as customer number one. And so they're informing a lot of the development of InsightIDR. They are curating our library of detections. So even if you're a software-only customer of InsightIDR, you're still benefiting from the expertise and insights of our managed detection and response team in that product. So again, it adds to that efficiency because we're infusing that insight and kind of giving some more information and confidence in the alerts that you're getting, that they're real and they're high fidelity. And then the last piece here is Insight Connect, which is our security orchestration and automated response tool. And so we offer some core SOAR functionality within InsightIDR out of the box, the ability to contain threats, the ability to enrich alerts and things like that. But the full kind of power of automation is realized with Insight Connect. And so that product connects seamlessly with InsightIDR. And we see customers use these products independently or in any combination. But for the purposes of today's discussion, I'm going to focus in on InsightIDR, which is, again, our cloud-native SIM that leverages a lot of insights from our MDR team and connects with our SOAR tool, Insight Connect. InsightIDR, as I mentioned, we're a cloud-native architecture, and we're delivering our SIM as a SaaS tool. It's all software-based to our customers. If you look at this diagram from kind of left to right, and we talked a little bit already today about all of these different components of new environments. We've got endpoint, we've got logs, network, cloud, web applications. InsightIDR is able, because of our cloud architecture, to more efficiently ingest these data and adapt to new sources, and then also offers the elastic hosting and flexibility needed to scale with these modern environments as they're growing rapidly. We, again, offer those rich out-of-the-box detections curated by our MDR team, so you're getting that analysis behind the scenes. Again, I think our cloud technology contributes a lot to that efficiency, and we're removing the burden of having to do a lot of that configuration and management and rule creation from the security team, and you're getting a lot of value in those out-of-the-box alerts. And then for each alert, we're presenting that as a visual investigation inside of Insight IDR. So you're presented with a visual timeline with all of the events correlated across these different event sources. So you're not jumping around from several different tools. You have all of the information that you need at your fingertips. So on the right side of the diagram, you see just a run through of some of the features that are included out of the box with Insight IDR, which includes our user and attacker behavior analytics, our endpoint detection response, network traffic, deception technology, file integrity monitoring, log search, the case management, and of course automation. And so I like to show this slide because I think it illustrates the efficiency and hopefully the takeaway of just kind of having all of these different pieces at your fingertips. So I've talked a little bit about collection, detection, and response, which I think if anyone has looked into SIEM technology or is familiar with it, these are terms and themes that you hear a lot. But I want to underscore the pieces that I think really drive and help explode the efficiency that we are able to deliver for our customers. And so those core pieces, first, again, the cloud architecture, so being able to deliver immediate value with SaaS. And I'm going to jump into each of these a bit deeper in a moment. The visibility across the modern environment. So again, as new potential sources of threats pop up, and these can be well-intentioned, as we said, there's a lot of benefits, to adopting containers and things like that, but they present also new risks as they pop up, being able to scale and being able to get instant visibility across the modern environment, being able to take action confidently, so not needing to run around and check 10 different sources, not needing to go through deep validation cycles to know what's real or understand the scope of an attack, having all of that at your fingertips and being able to take action confidently from one spot, and then, of course, unlocking efficiency with automation and correlation. I want to hit each of these really quickly. The immediate value, we recently commissioned a study with Forrester Consulting to try to put a number on what we were hearing as a theme a lot from our customers and from reviews around the value that we were seeing. It's something, I like this quote from Emeticis of just how quickly people are up and running, and it's not unusual for us to see a proof of concept up in a day or less. And so we worked with Forrester and looked at customers who had previously used an alternative SIEM product, and they found that people are getting up and running in a fifth of the time on average compared to previous SIEMs. And so we contribute that to, again, the cloud architecture, the automatic updates and scale. So with a SaaS delivery model, as we discover new threats, as we make improvements and adapt to what we're observing in the market and through our customers, you're getting those updates right away. There's no manual kind of updates or things like that, version changes that you need to do on your side. And those lightweight collection methodologies giving you that data and insights immediately as you jump into the platform. The next part is eliminating blind spots. And I think this is a big one, and especially in the time that we're in right now, where I think we're going to see, as we were already, but even more so, faster accelerated move to cloud applications and web applications and new sorts of technology to help us work remotely effectively or, have a dispersed workforce or whatever it is. I think this need within security to be able to look at your whole environment. And so we help our customers do that by including these technologies in Insight IDR. So being able to look at logs and users with our collectors, integrations, and APIs, being able to look at endpoints, on-premise, remote endpoints, whatever it is, being able to recognize instantly when an endpoint has been compromised with our Insight agent. And then also having that traffic visibility with the Insight network sensor. So every user, every device on a network is leaving a trail of data, and this is incredibly valuable for investigations. And so the Insight network sensor is able to provide that east-west and north-south traffic visibility. So when an attack happens, you're able to kind of retrace the steps and recognize quickly what contributed to that. And so as a result of all of these, this total economic impact study found that we're able to reduce the effort of incident management by almost 40% with Insight IDR, which is pretty considerable efficiency gain there. The next piece is around accelerating. So I talked about investigations taking too long, and I think there needs to be, and I think there is already a shift in kind of mindset of how we think about security from a few years ago. I think many moons ago it was focused on prevention and how do we keep bad guys out, and I think there's almost been an acceptance and a realization now of, yes, we have to take healthy preventative measures, of course, but we're not going to be able to keep everybody out. There's going to be some attack. Someone is eventually going to break through. And so accepting that and recognizing that the most important thing is that time to respond and time to detect, or time to detect and time to respond is critical. And so we've got the kind of coverage to get you there, but then again, more data can be just as challenging for teams as no data. And so the ability to kind of cut through the noise and have confidence that the alerts that you're getting are real and accurate and you know what to do next is incredibly important. And we're able to offer really high fidelity and quality of alerts through the curation from our managed detection and response team, through our global threat intelligence network, kind of fueling the insights and keeping that library up to date. So when we see something from our Metasploit penetration testing, when we, from Project Sonar internet scanning, from our Project Heisenberg global honeypot network, when we have all of these different sources of threat intelligence, we're looking at those and taking that as information to feed back into our products and inform the threats and vulnerabilities that we're looking for. And then again, the broader Insight Cloud, and we benefit from the insights of our sister products, Insight VM and Insight Connect and others. And so the result is a massive reduction in false positives, but also accelerating that time to respond to incidents. So our customers are responding in a third of the time compared to what they were doing before. And when an attacker is in the system, those seconds and minutes add up, and they're really important. And then kind of the summation of all of these and really just the philosophy and the guiding principle behind our product is how do we enable customers to focus their talent on the issues and the things that matter most, and not pull them into the drudgery of rule creation and fine tuning and things like that. And so we're able to do that through an intuitive UI. Our correlation, so when you're looking at an alert, you're seeing multiple data sources triangulated to give you the full picture in one investigation timeline. And then again, automation, we for a long time have believed that automation is critical and is a necessity to be able to have a successful detection and response program. And that's why we've included some core SOAR functionality out of the box, and why we extend to Insight Connect and encourage our customers to do so. And so the result of all of these is an increased efficiency gain for our customers of 4.5x return on investment over 3 years. So a lot of, I think, positive feedback that we've seen, and again, this kind of maniacal focus on efficiency, because we really see it as the number one obstacle for successful detection and response. And then just to wrap up, I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute, and hopefully this was helpful and offered some perspective and insight of how we think about efficiency and what our approach looks like. We've got a lot more to offer. If you go to rapid7.com, we offer a 30-day free trial of InsightIDR, and you can use your own data in this trial, so you can actually see how it behaves in your environment. And again, it's not uncommon for us to see, even with a self-guided trial, for customers to have it up and running in as little as a day. And if you're newer to detection and response overall and kind of looking for an overview, or looking to understand just core concepts around cloud SIM as kind of the next generation of SIM technology, we have a new ebook out as well, Driving Immediate Value with a Cloud SIM, that's available here as well. So that concludes my part today. Really appreciate everyone listening and happy to take any questions that might have come up during the presentation.
Absolutely, yeah. Great presentation, Megan. We do have some questions here for you from the audience. While we do that, I'm just going to bring up this poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Rapid7 solution? So get your questions in now if you have a question and haven't put it in the queue yet. Now's the time. So Megan, the first question I see here I wanted to ask you is about exactly how does the data get ingested? I know you talked about the many different sources that you can bring data in from. For example, if someone wanted to do the 30-day free trial, they have some on-premises logs and network equipment. How do you get that in?
Yeah, so it's all software-based with InsightIDR. So when you sign up for InsightIDR, you instantly have access to the Insight agent, the collectors, and the Insight network sensor that I was mentioning. So it's a software download. If you're working remotely now, you can deploy this all remotely. And then in the product, and what's nice too about InsightIDR, going back to that intuitive UI, we've made a big effort to incorporate a lot of kind of wizard style workflows and things like that into the user experience. So in addition to our help docs, as you go through, you'll kind of be guided through the process and steps of standing up the Insight agent, getting the collectors and things deployed. A lot of it is as simple as just copying and pasting credentials and things like that into IDR, and that data will start flowing immediately. So
nice.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned that this can do automation, and you all believe strongly in automation. Can you give us some examples of automation in the product?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple examples of automated workflows that are included out of the box with IDR are things like containment. So using the Insight agent to contain a threat on an endpoint, or using Okta to suspend a user account or an Active Directory user account, isolating a carbon black sensor, things like that. Also on the enrichment side could be things like leveraging open source threat intel to enrich an alert. So it'll do things like look up a hash, or extend shorten URLs, or look up IPs and flag known bad IP addresses. So those are some of the core things that are included. Again, based on what we're seeing, I would encourage everyone to also look at Insight Connect to really tap into that full suite. There's over 300 plugins on Insight Connect, so it not only extends the use cases out of InsightIDR, you can also create automation for other scenarios, even non-security scenarios. So I think worth taking a look at.
Interesting. So Insight Connect can really kind of take the automation to the next level. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. Yep, it's a full suite SOAR product.
Okay, nice. And then here's a question I'm going to submit. It's my own question because this really struck me as you were talking about Cloud SIM. Does this cloud-based model have a sort of crowdsourcing effect where, because you have so many different customers and you're seeing so many different types of attacks, that this would actually be more secure than, say, a standalone on-premises SIM that is going to periodically download updates or attack types?
Yep, you hit the nail on the head. There is an inherent community benefit by being cloud-based. And, I continue to be impressed by the community of our customers. And I think, in security, we've turned a corner and kind of appreciated that, rising tides lift all ships, and we need to kind of share those insights and things. And so, getting the community intelligence and feeding that back in, but also all of those different Rapid7 sources, and that's a whole other talk in itself of our threat intelligence. But not having that delay, and as soon as we kind of recognize something, and we've had some instances recently where we've found some vulnerabilities, and to be able to, in an hour, kind of feed that back. When you think about a traditional SIM, that's something that could take weeks or more for even a critical threat. So I think it's a very necessary deployment style for the future and the way that the market is moving. And it inherently has a lot of community and collaboration benefits. So, if you're working remotely and you are hiring new employee that's somewhere else, you're all looking at the same data on the same SaaS platform right away. So, yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like that sort of community intelligence is really, really necessary in security. And another question here, Tim is asking, what really makes Rapid7 unique, in your opinion, from all the other solutions out there?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think there's a few things, and we hit some of them in that kind of differentiation section, but it comes back to me again to the cloud delivery and the native cloud delivery. I know that, some people have started to offer these kind of hybrid models, or they've retroactively added in cloud offerings. I think there's some, gotchas in that approach. When you're natively cloud from the start, everything is inherently built that way. And so there's no kind of crazy workarounds. It's all kind of created with that intention. The cloud delivery is the big one. The ability, so we're including the access to the agent. You're getting an endpoint agent included in your SIM subscription, which is pretty unique. The access to the Insight Network Sensor and the collectors all out of the box. So you've got that visibility, not just into one log source that you then need to double check across multiple different products. You've got it all in one piece of software. And then the insights from our team and our other Insight products. So Insight VM, leading vulnerability management solution, like all of these different tools coming together. And just giving a lot of ammunition. So whether you're a team of 1 or 101, you kind of have this whole kind of engine behind you that's helping fuel and helping make sure, you're finding things early, but also that you know what to do next and you feel confident taking that step. So.
Nice. Excellent. Well, I think that's all the time we have in our live Q&A session here, but it's been really great having you on. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you to Rapid7. Of course, check out the ebook that's right there in your audience console under handouts on driving immediate value with a cloud SIM. And also, as Megan said, you can go to rapid7.com/insightidr and you can sign up for a free trial of this. It's a 30-day free trial. You can use your own data and you can be up and running in as little as a day. So cool stuff. Again, thank you to Rapid7. And with that, it's time for our first Amazon $500 gift card announcement. We have a gift card going out to David Woner from Tennessee. Congratulations, David Woner from Tennessee. 2 more gift cards to give out still on today's presentation. And now I'm excited to introduce you to our next presenters on today's EcoCast. Welcoming Mr. Craig Hollowell, Director of Strategic Alliances at Pure Storage, Roger Cheeks, Senior Analytics Technologist at the Kinney Group, and Mr. Jim Kinney, Founder and CEO of the Kinney Group as well. Craig, Roger, and Jim, are you there?
We are.
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for being on. Take it away.
No problem. Thanks, David. This is Craig Hollowell from Pure Storage. It's been about a year since my last ATM appearance, but I'm happy to be back. We're going to shift slightly from the Rapid7 discussion to another product that's in the SIM category, which is Splunk. That was a great last session by Rapid7. And we're going to continue the discussion about doing more with less to achieve awesome analytics outcomes with Splunk. Most of you know Pure Storage as an all-flash storage vendor. We have hundreds of Splunk customers running on our platforms. And for years, we've been teaming closely with elite Splunk partner Kinney Group for Splunk deployments and solutions. I'm joined by Jim Kinney, CEO of Kinney Group, and Roger Cheeks, Senior Splunk Architect. And we're going to take you through how to do more with less for Splunk. So, Jim, why don't you take us through some of the challenges we're seeing?
Absolutely. Thanks, Craig. Hey, greetings, everybody. Hope we're all safe and sound at home and enjoying the last days of summer. I know I am. Hey, so yes, as Craig mentioned, our charter today is to put some bugs in your head with regard to how in the heck we can do more with less with Splunk, and really, get the maximum out of your organization's investments with Splunk. If you are a Splunk customer, you're probably familiar with this slide. Splunk is an awesome platform. Our team, we've been working with Splunk since late 2012. Security is absolutely a fantastic use case. We continue to believe it's one of the top, if not the top, SIEMs in the marketplace. And the platform is also just extraordinarily awesome for, getting a beat on system health, compliance, that type of thing. If you're a Splunk user and you haven't started to poke at, the business analytics, we'd really encourage you to do that. And it's been great. We've had a fantastic ride with these guys. The platform's really unique. It lets you see just everything. But, if you've worked with Splunk, we get it. Splunk not done right can be, quote, wicked expensive. And so, in this theme of how do we do more than less, we're going to probably lead off with some insights that we see. And we've talked to a large number of Splunk customers over the years. We'll give you some insight into that a little bit later in the session. But simply put, we see the same themes again and again. First, if Splunk is running on-prem or even in the cloud, Splunk customers want more performance, especially at scale. And at scale in the Splunk world means, ingesting lots of data and lots of use cases. And where performance can suffer is really an area of search. And that's tough, especially if you're trying to get, the bulk of your organization really using the platform. So just simple performance that, searches are really snappy. Also, we hear a lot that Splunk customers, especially those teams that need to operate and sustain Splunk, it's just doggone it. The platform's super powerful, but boy, it can be complex. So, how can we make things, simple? And then lastly, we hear time and again, this is tied to this, Splunk as expensive thing. Customers want more business outcomes, more insights out of their Splunk investment, and spend less time wrestling with the platform itself. So, the other side of the coin of this, the less part, well, yeah, Splunk customers we see time and again, they want less cost, and less cost multifaceted, less cost on licensing, infrastructure, and the whole sustainment tail. And as I mentioned a moment ago, Splunk is powerful, and yet it is complex. And I got to drive out complexity, and the kissing cousin, as they say, to complexity is risk. Whenever I have complexity, I tend to have risk. This is the stuff that customers really want to see less of. Well, what's driving all this? Especially what we want to see less of. This is the dragon right here that we need to slay. It is a metaphor for complexity. It really is the root. Complexity is of what we need to drive out on the left side. And if we can drive out complexity, we're going to start to get, much higher probability of getting the business outcomes. All right, so what's the sword that we need to employ to slay the complexity dragon? if you're running Splunk on-prem, we're going to advocate an approach that is used by many other enterprise platforms. It's this notion of a tested and secured reference design. And we're going to shed a little bit of light on the essence of the reference design, but we believe fairly passionately this is the sword that'll slay that complexity dragon. All right. So how in the heck did we go about doing this? Well, I'm going to shed some light. There's really three ways that through the reference design we're delivering superior outcomes, business outcomes for customers' investments in Splunk. So let's first, at kind of a high level, let's talk a little bit about the reference design itself and how we went about doing this. Well, one of the things we did is we harnessed the power of the Pure Storage FlashBlade system for hosting Splunk data, and that's where we really get some crazy performance gains, especially at scale, right? But we have these other things that we want more of, more simplicity and less cost. So the other thing we did is we applied the power of virtualization. If you've been around Splunk for a while, the legacy guidance has been run Splunk on bare metal. We've been doing this a long time. You do not need to do that. Organizations really can harness the power of virtualization to get scalability, more resiliency, lots more flexibility as you need to move assets around. But, those are like ingredients. But how the heck, again, do we remove risk? So we took an approach. We used the flash stack design that is, as you guys may know, it's a Cisco-validated design. So we're using FlashBlade at the storage layer, and then Cisco UCS at compute and Cisco Nexus at network. And the beauty of using a Cisco-validated design, all the legwork's done to validate that all the hardware components work well together. Well, we took it a step further then at the virtualization layer. If you're familiar with VMware, they now have VMware-validated designs, or VVDs. So what did we do? We took those two components. That's excellent work that's already done. And what it did is it created a great baseline for us. So once we had that infrastructure baseline, here's what we did next. We then took Splunk Enterprise. I mean, we are drop-dead good at understanding how to optimize Splunk. So we took this first step. We took the Splunk Enterprise code and optimized it for performance in a virtualized environment that is running within the FlashStack CVD. And we did get kick-ass performance. It was just awesome. Searches were just crazy fast, even at scale. Ingest rates, just crazy fast with a fraction of the compute resources. But you know what? Doing that just wasn't enough, right? Especially if you got a SIM use case or other critical use cases with Splunk running on-prem, the Splunk data itself and the environment itself needs to be secured. So the next step that we took is we hardened the entire environment. We hardened the entire environment in accordance with a government standard called FISMA Moderate. If you're familiar with U.S. Federal, FISMA Moderate is the security or hardening standard or set of standards that are used for classified networks. So we applied that know-how, and this was step two. We hardened the environment. Well, here's the thing. So now we got this great ingredients with the FlashStack infrastructure and VMware and Splunk Enterprise, and we got a great recipe now, how we configured it and how we secured it. But, that's still kind of complex. You now got to cook this thing. And so what we did is we made it just drop dead easy to get going. We wrapped the entire design with automation. So deploying this design is push button easy. We get consistency, and the design gets deployed exactly how it was built. And then further, we have a really interesting derivative work on the approach that we take. Is not only did we automate the deployment and configuration, we also automated change management. And so we removed risk. risk associated with well-intended sysadmins that might go in there and make a change they shouldn't. We've automated unauthorized change remediation, if you will. So I promised that we had 3 steps or 3 goodies on how we went about doing it. This is just step 1. I'm going to hand it over to Roger to talk a little bit about this cool thing called SmartStore, which helps us enable the power of the cloud. Roger, take it away, man.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate that. So, all of the components that Jim referenced earlier are critical to this infrastructure. But without SmartStore, more than likely, the performance that Jim referenced would not have been possible. What SmartStore does for Splunk is it decouples compute from storage, and it allows you to use an object-based store that's S3 compliant or AWS S3 itself. So not only are you getting this super powerful compute engine, you're getting essentially unlimited capacity. So it really changes the game as the way Splunk approaches the market and their scalability. Previously, they were tied to local storage, without a doubt. To get searches to work appropriately, you were linked to whatever you had on board. SmartStore removes that requirement and now has an elegant caching mechanism, and it literally removes the concept of the cold bucket. So not only are you not searching cold buckets, you're not rolling them and putting load on your storage. So this is a super elegant and super critical component of the infrastructure. And again, we've put the Kinney Group engineering power onto this solution to make this as easy as possible and deploy it as part of the automation stack. So I'm going to hand it over to Craig to talk about the third component.
Awesome. Thanks, Roger. So, folks, so far we've covered the platform, the Splunk platform, and what SmartStore brings. Then we've covered the design in 3 parts that Jim covered. But this isn't practical, or a great technical design isn't practical if the economics aren't also optimized. And as we said earlier, we're striving to do more with less, and we're focused on removing as much cost, complexity, and risk as possible. So let's take a moment to talk about the business side. And on the business side, there are 3 key things that Pure Storage has enabled to create a compelling and differentiated business approach. The first is the fact that this is a true hybrid cloud platform. We take SmartStore, which is a cloud-enabled software architecture, and we're combining that with FlashBlade, which is fast object storage on-premise. And this allows us to seek the optimal formula of price and performance. And since we're making the full use of automation, achieving the optimal price-performance sweet spot is really easy. There are 2 additional business drivers that are unique to Pure. The first is our evergreen approach, which has been recognized as an industry-leading innovation within the storage industry. The evergreen approach says that you no longer have to invest in separate software modules to enable an outcome. All Pure software is included within our Purity operating system. So whether the software functionality is snapshots, distance replication, storage system management, it's all included in the Purity OS at no additional cost. And there's more to evergreen. This approach guarantees that your maintenance pricing throughout the life of the platform stays the same. And lastly, if your customers are staying on the Pure Storage maintenance, upgrades to their controllers and upgrades to storage modules are executed at $0. And these are huge advantages when you consider these against other approaches in the market. And lastly, and perhaps the most compelling business consideration, is the use of what we call our Pure as a Service acquisition model. As we know, one of the benefits of cloud computing is the infrastructure as a service approach that enables costs to be considered as OpEx, and the customers can surge their infrastructure capacities easily via software. And what Pure has done recently has been to bring this cloud-oriented infrastructure as a service approach to storage that's running on-prem supporting Splunk data. So if you're operating Splunk Enterprise at scale, use of Pure as a service is really compelling. And here's an example. If you're using Splunk for a security use case, and you need to surge your data ingest into Splunk due to a breach, you can now also surge your storage infrastructure as easy as a few keystrokes. And just like in the cloud, when you're finished using surge storage capacity, you just turn it off. And the Pure as a Service approach enables all this. So talk about enabling less cost, complexity, and risk. The business approaches enabled by our designs really make this happen.
So, if I was the
Jim,
audience, I might be asking, why these guys? Craig, why don't you lead it off on, why the heck Pure Storage?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So here's the Gartner Magic Quadrant slide that you're used to seeing. But specific to Pure, for the 6th year in a row, Pure Storage has been a leader in the Magic Quadrant for storage. We were a leader in the Magic Quadrant for solid-state arrays for 5 years in a row before that MQ was retired, finishing highest in execution and furthest in the right in 2018. That was the last year that it was published. And then this year, Gartner combined its Magic Quadrant for general-purpose disk arrays and Magic Quadrant for primary storage into a single MQ that considers both SSAs and hybrid arrays. And they did this because SSAs are no longer niche technology. So according to Gartner, SSAs accounted for almost 50% of the worldwide external controller-based storage shipment in 2019, almost half. So let's take a look at market share. Pure is now recognized as an industry leader for enterprise storage. And not only does Gartner believe this, but the market does too. So looking at this graphic, what we're showing is that Pure Storage is basically the only enterprise storage company in the industry that's actually gaining market share. And there are a bunch of reasons for this, but in a nutshell, it's simple. When you combine unparalleled performance with simplicity and a compelling business model, great things happen, and that's exactly what Pure has done. So Jim, why don't you take us through Kinney Group's qualifications?
Absolutely. So, I'm going to guess that most of you have heard about Pure Storage a bit, but you might be wondering who the heck are these Kinney guys? Well, one, we're super fun, and we are absolutely your primary source. We're based in Indianapolis. We're your primary source for Indy 500 tickets. So not so much this year, but next year, come pay us a visit. But no, more on a serious note, here's a little bit of background of us. It seems right counterintuitive, well, how in the heck is a company based in Indianapolis, Indiana, what are they doing in the Intel and DoD spaces? This is the DNA of our company. We support a large number of national security-oriented customers, and what we've done is we've taken that know-how and that approach to security, and we apply it to everything that we do. And as you see on the left, we got a lot of hardworking engineers that, again, are wicked good on Splunk, literally over 60 of them. And Roger leads a team of architects that is more than 24 strong that have some of the most senior certifications that you can get. So we know Splunk, and we know how to do it in a secure fashion. We've been pretty good about, as well, helping a lot of customers. As I mentioned earlier, we've been at this since late 2012. Our latest count, we are over 500 different engagements. This is just a small sample of some of the brands that we've supported. And so we've just seen a lot of different experiences and different trials and tribulations with Splunk. And one of the things we came away with, and we leaned into our work with Pure supporting Splunk a number of years ago, again, it is the best platform out there from our vantage point to get just phenomenal results while at the same time hitting those more with less formulas that we led with. And now with the addition of SmartStore, that I can surge, legacy data into the cloud and still search it all with local performance. I mean, it is just crazy. We're really fired up about it. But what matters is what customers say. And Craig, maybe you can shed a little bit of light on what customers are saying about Splunk running on Pure.
Yeah, I would love to, Jim. So Pure has hundreds of customers running Splunk on Pure as well. And what I've done here is to select just a few of the best quotes or testimonials from 3 of our Splunk on Pure customers. And we'll start with ServiceNow. What one of their admins said is, at ServiceNow, we use Splunk for full-stack monitoring and risk mitigation. Running Splunk on Pure ensures that Splunk can handle an ever-increasing amount of machine data and virtually no downtime. And my favorite part, we wouldn't run Splunk on anything else. In the bottom, you see a quote from Neha at Veritas. With Splunk SmartStore on Pure Storage, we can add and remove compute nodes in minutes instead of hours. No more rebalancing against indexers. And that is hugely important for the maintenance. One of the benefits we've seen with SmartStore is the reduction in maintenance time. And when you combine that with the FlashBlade platform and the reference design that Kinney's built, it makes maintenance of Splunk so much easier. And then finally, in the top right, from Tony Garza at Frostbank, one of my favorite quotes: Splunk on Pure returns answers in seconds. It's very fast. So that sums it up. It tells you we've got customers who are buying for performance, manageability, and one who says we wouldn't run Splunk on anything else. Roger, why don't you tell the group where they can get more information on our solutions?
Yeah, thanks, Craig. So we produced a white paper that backs up all of the things that we said today. You can download it at the link on your screen now. And for all of the tech guys in the audience, we're going to do a deep dive in the beginning of September where I peel back the layers and show you how we're able to accomplish all this. Probably going to risk the live demo, so you guys can come and see me possibly embarrass myself in early September before Labor Day. So please download the white paper, and of course you'll be able to reach Kinney Group and Pure through that link.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We really appreciate
thanks for your time.
I'll turn it back over to the moderator.
Excellent presentation. Thank you, Craig, Roger, and Jim. I've just brought up a poll question for the audience here. If you'd like more information about this solution, we want to know exactly what you're looking for. How can the Pure and Kinney team help you? And I'll just leave that up while we do some questions with the audience. So first one that comes in here, I'm not sure who wants to take this. That is, how does this differ from Splunk Cloud?
Ooh,
yeah, you
I
want to take that?
Ooh, I'll be happy to take it. Okay. So here's the thing. You know, as in so many things in life, there's not one shoe that fits everyone. There are just going to be use cases where, or driven by policy, security, what have you, where customers just simply want to run Splunk on-prem. I mean, the beauty of Splunk Cloud is like, all right, well, it's simpler on the infrastructure side, but, you know, as Craig made mention earlier, it's the whole all OpEx, you know, infrastructure as a service type approach. And so what we did with the reference designer, what we endeavored to do was bring that ease of use cloud experience and the cloud OpEx model, but bring that over to on-prem or in hybrid. And, you know, from a total cost perspective, every customer is different. Their workloads are different. Their user bases are different. You're now afforded an opportunity, again, to get that cloud ease of use with the cloud OpEx, but now the flexibility to really look and go, what is lowest cost and most effective for your environment? The beauty of this, as it relates to how Splunk works, absolutely no difference. It's going to ingest, our design ingests the data the same. You know, searches are done the same. SPL is written the same. No differences there. It's just that now Splunk customers have choice, and they can optimize their environment specific for their organization and their use case.
Nice. I like that. All right. A solid option there. Solid answer. Thank you. Next question that came in, they're asking is maybe for Roger or Jim, what are some of the most common business or IT challenges that your customers are solving with Splunk?
Ooh, Roger, you want to lead off with that one?
Yeah, I'll tee off with that one. So the primary driver with Splunk is almost always security in today's marketplace, right? So security is top of mind for everyone. So that's the number one driver. The second is IT operations around application performance and KPI metrics. So essentially making sure that my applications are capable of supporting my business objectives. So those are the top two. Although Splunk turns out to be this Swiss Army knife, so there are hundreds of others, but those are the top two.
Yeah, and from my vantage point, is just like to kind of pile on a little bit. I mean, it goes without saying the world's changed. So now we have entire workforces that are dependent on IT systems to get access to the things they need to do their job. I mean, we're seeing a lot of customers in this IT operations use case now use Splunk to identify where stuff breaks so it can get fixed quickly, but more importantly, harness the predictive analytics power of Splunk to look a bit in the future and get ahead of those parts of the infrastructure that may be at risk due to increased use. So again, this new world we're all in, Splunk, very powerful for making sure things are secure and running well.
Nice. All right. And then why Splunk over other maybe comparable solutions?
Oh, gosh, I love this question. Okay. I'm going to date myself. I remember I grew up with, what are these things, little connector kits, right? And we'd see on the box, it was like, this Ferris wheel. And what I wanted was the outcome. I wanted the Ferris wheel. But when I ordered the little connect kit, okay, there's a bunch of pieces. I didn't want to spend my time on that. I want to spend my time on the Ferris wheel. Splunk's like that. It is a platform integrated, ready to rock and roll to derive business outcomes. And so, there's a reason why Gartner's tapped Splunk as the #1 SIEM 7 years running. And what it is this: the time to results, when done right, the time to results is very, very different. And so what we've found time and again is just simply that. Organizations invest in platforms like Splunk to deliver business outcomes. Splunk gets you there faster at lower total cost. It's no more complex than that.
Perfect, and that's what we're talking about here on today's event is boosting IT efficiency. So is Splunk combined with Pure Storage sounds like the perfect solution for that, and I think that's a great place to end. One final question, though. What should people do to get started? I know Roger talked about his upcoming webinar. We also have the paper here available for download in the Handouts tab on the 3 powerful benefits of modernizing your Splunk environment. Any further recommendations over those?
No, I would zero in on that. The title of the white paper is a little deceiving. There's some technical depth in there. So I would really encourage people to, jab at the white paper, and we got more good stuff coming. And yes, Roger's a fantastic guy. We're going to have a lot of fun, and join him and the team on the 3rd would absolutely be a key next step.
Excellent. And Craig, what about you? Any further words? Anything to add?
Just for more information, there is a dedicated Splunk page on purestorage.com. So in addition to all the resources that on the Kinney Group site, Pure Storage has a dedicated page with plenty of info too.
Excellent. Pure Storage, check out the Splunk page. Really great presentation again. Thank you so much, Craig, Roger, and Jim. We appreciate you being on.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you to Pure Storage and, of course, the Kinney Group as well. Check out the handout, again, once more in the Handouts tab with the white paper there, 3 powerful benefits of modernizing your Splunk environment. Go to kinneygroup.com/pure. Also go to Pure Storage and check out the dedicated Splunk resources section there for more information. And watch out for an invite to Roger's webinar on Thursday, September 3rd at 1 p.m. And with that, it's time now for our next gift card announcement. We have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Nicole McClintock from Kansas. Congratulations, Nicole McClintock from Kansas. One more gift card still to give out, so stay tuned for that. And now it's time for our next presenter. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Sahil Bansal, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Nutanix. Take it away.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's great to have you. We look forward to telling you about some of the challenges that we see from a DevOps perspective when it comes to maintaining cloud costs. We look forward to an engaging conversation, so please bring your questions. For those of you who might not be familiar with Nutanix, essentially Nutanix is a hybrid cloud provider where we have our own HCI solution, hyper-converged infrastructure solution. That's what we are known for. That's what our core business is, where our HCI solution is software delivered and it converges compute, storage, and networking layers into one infrastructure platform that is basically can be thought of as your on-premises private cloud platform. But as we've been seeing, the world is increasingly more and more a multi-cloud and hybrid cloud world. When I say multi-cloud, that could be a combination of any kind of multiple clouds. It could be multiple public clouds. It could be on-prem plus public clouds working in isolation. And sometimes people talk about hybrid cloud and multi-cloud in a similar way. But the way we think about hybrid cloud at Nutanix is there is burstability of workloads between on-premises environments and public clouds. So that's just to kind of like set the expectations of what we mean when we talk about multi-cloud or hybrid cloud. And so all of you in this organization are working in IT roles, probably as DevOps engineers, infrastructure operations, architects, and so on. And I'm sure you run into these challenges when you talk about your multi-cloud environment, where at the end of the day, essentially the problem comes, the main source of the problem is lack of control over cloud deployment, especially in public clouds, which can very quickly lead to a sprawling environment, right, which gets out of your hands very quickly unless you have some sort of automation policies built in place. And then even if you are using the native tools that are given by the public cloud provider or by any cloud provider for that matter, they tend to only work in the construct of their own cloud environment. So you have lack of visibility across cloud boundaries unless you have a true multi-cloud solution that can span all of your cloud boundaries, including on-prem and public cloud environments. And of course, with the public cloud world, you also have so many different ways of purchasing resources: on-demand, spot instances, reservation, and then you have to think about which availability zone, which region you should purchase them in, and then you have to also think about all of these different cloud providers, which have probably have different pricing models. So there's a huge amount of purchase planning complexity that goes in. And at the end of the day, what ends up happening is we hear all of the time that engineering teams have been told by their leadership to just move everything to the cloud, right? I'm sure a lot of us relate to that sentence on this call, just move everything to the cloud. But what happens when you move to the cloud without adequate policies in place, governance policies in place, is your costs quickly start to go out of hand. Based on research done by Gartner and other industry-leading analysts, we see that 60% of organizations routinely exceed their cloud budget within the first 12 to 18 months of moving from their data center to a cloud environment. And on an average, the spending overshoot can be as much as 35% of what was budgeted especially for a public cloud environment. That's a huge amount of overspend to be, overshooting by 35% within the first couple of years or so of moving to cloud. So what do we do? What is the fundamental problem that's causing these issues? It's because you have your data centers, you have your distributed cloud, you have your edge environments, obviously multiple public clouds are running in different regions, private cloud environments, and as IT leaders, we are trying to run operations and governance policies in siloed environments. That is what leads to there not being any unified control over the entire cloud boundary. And so what is needed, the fundamental need, is to standardize governance and operations across all cloud environments, public and private, using a single solution, instead of trying to rely on point solutions for different cloud environments. What we have seen work out much better is one unified solution that covers your entire environment. And these kind of solutions fall in the category, again, as defined by Gartner, called cloud service expense management tools. So we're increasingly starting to see that DevOps teams are taking ownership of cloud service expense management, in addition to obviously the regular development and operations practices that they need to work with. Because at the end of the day, the DevOps teams are the ones that are doing a bulk of the deployment in the cloud, especially in public clouds. And so the onus of making sure that those deployments are optimal and they stay within the company's allocated budget, that ownership we start to see again falls back on the actual engineering teams. And so some of the key capabilities that you need to think about when you're looking at CSEM tools is does it have good RBAC capabilities? Does it allow you to do allocation and tagging for showback purposes? Does it allow you to import your existing discounts? Are you able to forecast your cloud costs at least a few months ahead into the future? Are you able to automatically detect spending anomalies? The tool should be able to detect these spending anomalies across all environments. Is it making good cost optimization recommendations that you can actually act upon? Are you getting reserved instance management practices? And are you able to utilize spot instances effectively? Those are generally the broad categories that we see are relevant when we start to think from the perspective of managing our cloud service expense. And so that's where the Nutanix offering called Xi Beam comes into the picture. It's completely tangential to our HCI offering. So while we do support the Nutanix HCI, we are not dependent on the Nutanix HCI. It is not delivered with our Nutanix HCI stack. It's a completely separate standalone SaaS offering that Nutanix provides in the market, specifically for multi-cloud cost control by providing you three main value drivers through visibility, optimization, and automated control over your cloud spend. And as we'll go through this presentation and a live demo, we'll show you all of the steps that we need to take or that we allow our customers to take that can help them cut their cloud costs, especially public cloud costs, by as much as 50%. So talking about, what does Beam bring to the table? So the first thing is visibility. You cannot control what you cannot see, right? So we help with multi-cloud dashboards that combine all of your cloud spending into one centralized tool. And then you can start from that this multi-cloud view and then dig into whichever environment that you want to look into setting up cost automation policies for, whether that's your AWS, Azure environment, or your on-premise Nutanix environment. We do plan to support GCP very soon, as well as other private clouds other than Nutanix. So it's really trying to bring in all of your frequently used cloud environments into one console and giving you complete visibility into all of your organization's spend. Additionally, we also help with automated cost anomaly detection so that you don't have to do any kind of setup or any kind of complicated cost analysis. Typically, what we see most of most of the organizations that do not use CSCM tools, they end up having to go manually through all of the billing reports, right? And as you can imagine, that's a really cumbersome process to have to go through very long billing reports, and then oftentimes from dozens to hundreds of cloud accounts, and oftentimes from multiple cloud providers to identify where your cloud spend might be increasing. So we've done all of that hard work, and we've used our own in-house generated machine learning algorithm that helps with automated cost anomaly detection. We had a question come in: how does Beam compare against Cloud Health? We are in the same space as Cloud Health. That was acquired by VMware recently. But in addition to the cost capabilities that Cloud Health has, we also have security compliance capabilities, similar to a tool called Redlock from Palo Alto Networks. So you're essentially getting both cost capabilities as well as security capabilities with Beam. And as we will go through the demo, you will see that we have a lot more support for spot instances and scheduling policies that Cloud Health does not have. And yes, we do support Azure as well. So we support AWS and Azure today, Nutanix on-premises environment, and GCP to come in the summer of next year. Right, so we talked about visibility. We help you bring all of your cloud spend together. We help you easily identify cost anomalies. And then the bread and butter of the tool is obviously around cost savings. And we do this in many different ways. First is policy-based automation to eliminate unused resources or to right-size underutilized resources. For example, you might have old snapshots that are sitting around in your public cloud environment, and you want to delete those snapshots. So you can just set up a policy once, such as if you see Beam identifies any snapshot that is older than, let's say, 90 days, then go ahead and automatically delete it. Or if there is any storage volume that is not connected to a compute instance for, let's say, 3 weeks or whatever, then go ahead and delete the storage volume, and so on. So that's deletion of unused resources. Then you can also have resources that are being used, but they're not appropriately sized. And we see that oftentimes with compute instances, where you might have spun up a very bulky instance, but that's not really optimal for what workloads are running on that instance for a long period of time. So we can either make recommendations about right-sizing those, and you can take the actions manually in terms of right-sizing, or you can configure the right-sizing policies in Beam and allow Beam to take those right-sizing actions on its own. Going beyond that, then we also provide reserved instance recommendations, where we analyze your historical usage and we normalize all of these instances that might be running for a 24/7 period over, let's say, a 30-day look-back period. And we normalize those to the minimum amount of reservation that you should purchase instead of consuming everything in an on-demand fashion. And lastly, it's around spot instances. So we'll also talk in depth about how we actually help you migrate your workloads from on-demand instances to spot instances. And so through all of these processes, elimination of unused resources, right-sizing of underutilized resources, RI purchase recommendations, spot instance migration, and also on-off scheduling. Together with all of these capabilities, we help deliver cost-saving opportunities. And lastly, in addition to the cost saving, it's also important to make sure that we have granular views for each user so that they can keep an eye on exactly what they are responsible for. Let's say I'm a DevOps engineer, but I do all of my deployments only in the US East region. I don't care about what happens in our Europe regions or in the APAC regions or anywhere else. I want to be able to have a segmented view, but the view should be across all clouds if I'm working with more than one cloud environment. And so over there, we help with the showback and chargeback reports that are extremely granular. You can decide which user you want. You can decide which cloud region. You can even add tags to it. So if I have a production tag and I only want to see the cost views for all of my production VMs running in US East in my AWS and Azure environment, you can create those kind of granular views and send out automated reports, showback and chargeback reports, so that the users can keep their focus on exactly what they care about. And of course, then helping set up automated policies based on those individual views for individual users is also something that's in our very short-term roadmap. Bringing everything back together, so we talked about a lot of things. What are the key benefits? What are the key advantages? Beam is a SaaS solution. You can start your free trial from our website. It takes about 15 minutes to hook up with your public cloud. Takes maybe just like 5 minutes with your Nutanix on-prem environment. And you'll start to see cost-saving recommendations within the first 24 hours. Even during the trial phase, we've seen a lot of users are able to identify so many cost savings through resource deletion or right sizing that they didn't know about, that even during the trial phase, you could potentially save thousands of dollars of potential overspending. You can set up automated policies, so it's an action-oriented tool and not simply a reporting tool. It provides you complete multi-cloud coverage, so AWS, Azure, Nutanix supported today, GCP expected by middle of next summer, and also the non-Nutanix private cloud later in the next calendar year, so that we can bring in a lot of complete basically the whole tool set. And as I said, it takes only 15 minutes to set up, right? All we are doing is hooking up Beam to your billing reports, and just giving Beam the ability to run API calls in your cloud environment so that we can take any kind of automated actions. Even if you don't want to allow Beam to take any automated actions, you can still use Beam and for it is like reporting purposes and identifying what are the potential cost savings. Okay, so enough talking. Now let me quickly do a screen share and show you actually how some of these things work in practice. So what you're seeing over here is now our Beam console. We have configured it with a bunch of different AWS and Azure accounts. These are real data. This is not any kind of dummy data. This is real resources running in our own actual clouds. This is an overall spending view across my entire organization so that I can see how much have I spent in my current month, what is my projected spending, how efficient am I across all cloud environments. You see this number at 99% because these are our production accounts, so we try to keep them very heavily optimized from a cost perspective. And let's say if I want to dig in deeper into one of them. So we mentioned that we do automated spending anomaly detection, and that's what we are seeing over here. And this is really identifying out-of-pattern spending. For example, maybe you have never spun up a storage bucket at 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, or you've never consumed an RDS instance in a particular cloud region. This kind of helps as an early warning system by detecting those out-of-pattern spending so that we can actually show you down to the individual resource level what is it that that spending is happening upon. In this case, it may not be, I see some data transfer costs. That's probably not a cause for worry, but it's good to have from a kind of like an early warning detection perspective. If I go back to the actual account where we have more data. So this is our, as I mentioned, our cost optimization, the bread and butter of the tool, where we are identifying the cost-saving opportunities in many different ways. You see, we support a lot of different services in terms of identifying unused resources that you are paying for and you're no longer using. So you can see the actual ID, resource ID tags, so that you can quickly, and of course the cloud account, so that you can quickly then go ahead and delete this resource. You can either take the actions that are from the Beam console, or you can do it in your cloud environment. From the Beam console, you can see very easily you can eliminate it, or you can set up an automation policy with Beam. Over here, for example, it says if snapshots are older than 40 days, then go ahead and delete it because that's what is being considered unused. And these are highly customizable, so you can choose your own policies however you want them to be. Unused resources, looking at things like network usage, CPU usage, IOPS, and so on. Here we see that the CPU utilization has been less than 10% for an extended period of time. It jumped a couple of days ago. So I can define what am I considering underutilized, and based on that, Beam is going to make a recommendation. For example, here Beam is making a recommendation that instead of it being run as a double extra large size instance, you can downgrade it to a smaller size instance. Maybe we don't need to go all the way down to a nano size instance, but we could certainly bring this down at least 1 or 2 sizes. Reserved instance purchase recommendations, pretty simple and the same thing that you would see in other tools, which is normalizing your compute instances that have been running 24/7 over a period of time, telling you how much minimum amount of reservation you should purchase and what is the break-even period. So essentially, the question to me would become, should I purchase these this much amount of units? Beam is saying 110. If I am going to be using them for a period of 5 months, because that's where the break-even point seems to be. If so, I will recover. I'll start to say, I'll recover all my costs in 5 months, and then beyond that, it will be effectively savings, instead of as compared with running everything on demand. We also make change recommendations. So instead of just new purchases, perhaps there might be some existing purchases that for RIs that you've made, right? And maybe your workload requirements change, your business requirements change, and those are no longer the most optimal RIs that you should be running. If those were convertible RIs, meaning that the cloud provider allows you to change them to a different size, then we'll show you the recommendations on changing those RIs based on either maximum amount of savings, which could involve a higher upfront payment, or minimum true-up cost, so that you don't have to pay too much more amount upfront in order to convert that RI, but the savings might be a little bit lesser. So those are the kind of change recommendations that we make for existing RIs. And we talked about spot instances, so this is what we are pretty excited about. These are some of the services that we support. The most common use case that we see is around auto-scaling groups. And essentially what we're doing over here, as we mentioned, is trying to predict the spot instances when they might be asked back by the cloud provider and migrating your workloads automatically back to on-prem before the spot instance goes away. So and of course you can import your auto-scaling groups into Beam, your existing auto-scaling groups that you might have, or you can create new auto-scaling groups in Beam. And really all that you have to do in Beam is, in this case, it's an auto-scaling group. So you would define a target amount of spot instances that you want Beam to identify, a minimum amount and a maximum amount. So Beam is going to try and optimize to make sure that there are at least 5 spot instances available for this auto-scaling group, and trying to optimize towards 10 and never going above 50. You can have this either in the form of number of instances or the vCPUs across all of those instances. Between on-demand versus spot, maybe you don't want everything moved 100% to spot instances, and you want to keep a good balance of spot versus on-demand. You can define what should be the failback policy. Let's say if the spot does go away, then what should we do? Should we move the auto-scaling group back to on-demand instances, or should we move it to reserved instances in this case, right? You can define which regions we should look for the spot instances in, what type of the spot instances. For example, here we see M3.large. You can pick up your VPC that you want to provide. You can provide your OS environment. Here are the availability zones and the type of spot instances, so you can specify what type of spot instances we should find. You can specify the AMI, so we'll use the AMI, we'll clone the AMI when migrating to the spot instance before we drain out the on-demand instance. You can specify your security groups and your key pairs. The rest of the stuff is regarding your normal auto-scaling policy. So that's something that's probably already done on the cloud provider side. And once we find a spot instance, for example, over here, we can see that these are existing spot groups, as we call them, and we will migrate them we show you what happened in terms of we found 2 instances, they ran for a certain period of time, and it delivered this much in cost savings for the period of time that these spot instances ran. If these ran normally as on-demand instances, you would have paid a certain amount, but because of this migration to spot instances that we did for this time period, your actual spending was far lesser, delivering sometimes up to 80 to 85% in cost savings. So that's a feature that I mentioned is in early access. So we'll be happy to onboard people one by one. And lastly, looking at what we call scopes. This is where we can define granular views. Let's say you care about a particular cost scope only for yourself. You can pick out the cloud provider, right? So we see AWS and Azure. We will have Nutanix also here in about another couple of weeks or so. Define which parent accounts you want, which sub-accounts under that parent accounts you want, specify the key value pairs, and that's the definition of the scope. And as I mentioned, the scope can be across multiple cloud accounts. So let's say I could also add Azure over here. And what it does is it will create these cost scopes where I can then only focus on my view. I don't have to care about the overall company view, right? So I get to see the cost savings that are related to me. I see the budget views that are related to me. So you can define the budget either at a quarterly level or a monthly level, and then we will track your spending based on those tags that you define in the scope definition and alert you before the spending exceeds the budget. You can see based on the current spending pattern, we are showing that for this quarter, we will heavily exceed the allocated budget. So I could come in and take proactive actions and make sure that my budget does not get exceeded, and so that I can maintain good control over my cloud environment. So that's a very quick demo. And to wrap everything up, so Beam is a new service offered by Nutanix. We have nearly 150 customers by now, helping you get control over your cloud costs, right? And as I mentioned, there's a free trial. We also have some more reading material included with Team in the resources that we provided with this webinar. And to recap, the way we deliver almost 50% in cost savings, mostly through spot instance migration and RI purchase recommendations, and also helping you right-size your cloud resources. So that's all that I have. I will look at the questions that came in. If there are any other questions, please feel free to bring them in. There's a question on the support for early cloud. We have not mapped out early cloud on our roadmap yet, but we are definitely hearing that a lot from the market. So we will take your feedback if early cloud is important to you, and we will try to adjust our product roadmap accordingly. Right now, early cloud was not budgeted, was not planned for in calendar year 2020. But if we keep hearing more from the market, then we will certainly reevaluate our roadmap for it. I will hang around for a few more minutes to see if there are any questions that come in. But that's all that I have today. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to helping you.
Great presentation. Of course, we really appreciate that. I appreciate the live demo as well. Really seeing the product in action always makes such a difference, especially to visual people like myself, and I'm sure many of you out there as well. So that was cool to see Nutanix Beam in action. I've just brought up the poll question that says, what additional information would you like about the Nutanix solution? Keep in mind that there is a URL in the Handouts tab that will take you to Nutanix.com. And like Sahil said, you can try out Nutanix Beam for yourself. There's a free trial. It's very easy to get up and running. So now it's time to announce our final Amazon $500 gift card winner. Again, if you haven't answered the poll question, of course, we appreciate your participation in that poll. The final Amazon $500 gift card is going to Alex Gerber from Massachusetts. Congratulations, Alex Gerber from Massachusetts. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on today's webinar. Don't forget to answer that poll question there on your screen. Before you go, I want to remind you to subscribe to the 10 on Tech podcast over in the iTunes store. If you're a potential sponsor of an upcoming MegaCast or EcoCast, reach out to us at connect@actualtechmedia.com. And finally, I hope that you will join us for our next really big upcoming event that is the virtual summit, developing an IT strategy for storage, infrastructure, cloud, DR, security, and beyond. It's happening on August 26th, I believe it is. After this event, you'll be automatically redirected to our events website. We'll have over 1,500 attendees, most likely, I'm guessing, on that event. It looks like it will be super popular. Hope to see you on that event. We will end this event for today. Thank you, everyone who joined us on the Doing More with Less, highlighting technologies that help boost IT efficiency EcoCast event. I hope that you learned a lot. I did as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.